This video was made possible thanks to the support of our wonderful patrons. We couldn't ask for better fans. Hello everyone and welcome to another EDH gameplay video brought to you by Affinity for Commander. My name is Martin.
And my name is Alex.
In today's video we have a pretty unusual mix of commanders, ranging from the well-known to the very obscure. Also, be sure to stick around to the end of the video where we'll be announcing the winners of our token giveaway competition. With that being said, let's take a look at those opening hands. My commander is Edgar Markov. Keep a hand containing Forerunner of the Legion, Sorin Solemn Visitor, Lightning Greaves, Swords to Plowshares, Command Tower, Rogue's Passage and a Plains.
My commander is Urza, Lord High Artificer. My opening hand consists of Memnarch, Darksteel Relic, Mindstone, Lightning Greaves, Rhystic Study and 2 islands.
Stephen is playing his Meren of Clan Nel Toth deck. His opening hand contains Grey Merchant of Asphodel, Vampiric Rites, From Beyond, Deathreap Ritual, Command Tower and High Market.
And finally Sol's commander is Diaochan, Artful Beauty. He keeps an opening hand of Goblin Motivator, Pia and Kirin Nalar, Pillage and 3 mountains.
I win the die roll and play a Plains before passing to Sol.
Sol plays a mountain and then casts Goblin Motivator. He then passes the turn.
Alex plays an island and ends his turn.
Stephen plays Command Tower and passes to Martin.
I also play Command Tower and cast Lightning Greaves. I then pass the turn.
Sol plays a mountain and casts Renegade Map. Moving to combat, Sol attacks Martin with his Goblin, dealing him 1 damage, and then ends his turn.
Alex plays an island and casts Mind Stone. He then passes to Stephen.
Stephen plays a swamp and casts Primal Druid. He then passes the turn.
I play a swamp and then cast Forerunner of the Legion. I create a 1/1 vampire token thanks to my commander's Eminence ability and search my library for Olivia Voldoran, placing her on top of my deck. Next I equip my boots to my Forerunner and move to combat. I take revenge on Sol, swinging my Forerunner at him, dealing him 2 damage. I then end my turn.
Sol plays a mountain and then casts Pillage, destroying Martin's Swiftfoot boots. He then moves to combat, attacking me with Goblin Motivator, dealing me 1 damage. Sol then passes to me.
Alex plays an island and then casts Rhystic Study. He then passes the turn.
Stephen plays High Market and casts Crypt Breaker, paying 1 extra for Rhystic Study. He then ends his turn.
I play Opal Palace and then cast Olivia Voldoran. Alex draws a card from his study, I create a 1/1 vampire and my Forerunner gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. Moving to combat, I attack Alex with my Forerunner, dealing him 4 damage and then pass to Sol. Sol responds by sacrificing his Renegade Map, putting a snow-covered mountain into his hand and then proceeds to his turn.
Sol plays his snow-covered mountain and then casts Immolation Shaman, paying the 1 for Rhystic Study. Stephen responds to this by sacrificing his Primal Druid to High Market, gaining a life and putting a forest into play tapped. Moving to combat, Sol attacks me with his Goblin, dealing me 1 damage. He then passes the turn.
Alex plays an island and then casts Darksteel Relic. Next he casts his commander, Urza, Lord High Artificer, and creates a 0/0 construct token thanks to his ETB. Still not finished, Alex casts Lightning Greaves, which he immediately equips to Urza, ruining my plans to steal him with Olivia. Alex then ends his turn.
Stephen plays a swamp and then casts his commander, Meren of Clan Nel Toth, paying the Rhystic Study tax. Moving to his end step, Stephen returns Primal Druid to his hand and passes to Martin.
I cast Sorin, Solemn Visitor, and Alex draws a card from his Rhystic Study. Next I use Sorin's +1 ability, play Urza of Basilica and return a Plains to my hand. Moving to combat, I attack Alex with Olivia, dealing him 4 damage and gaining 4 life. I then pass the turn.
Sol plays a mountain and then casts his commander, Diaochan, Artful Beauty. Sol pays 1 extra for Rhystic Study and then taps his Goblin to give Diaochan haste. He taps his commander, choosing to destroy my construct and allowing Martin to choose a second target. Martin selects Meren, and Stephen vows to take revenge on the destructive duo. Sol then ends his turn.
Alex casts Tezzeret, Artifice Master, and uses his 0 ability to draw 2 cards. He then plays an island and casts Ethereum Sculptor before passing to Stephen.
Stephen plays a swamp and then casts Deathreap Ritual. I draw a card from Rhystic Study, and Stephen casts Vampiric Rites, allowing me to draw once more. He then passes the turn.
I play a Plains and then cast my commander, Edgar Markov. Alex draws from his Rhystic Study, Forerunner of the Legion gets +1/+1, and I use Soren's +1 ability before moving to combat. I attack Alex with all of my non-token creatures, and Edgar's ability triggers, putting a +1/+1 counter on all of my vampires. Alex declares no blocks, taking 16 damage, and I gain 16 life. I then end my turn.
Sol casts Pia and Kieran Nalar, paying 1 extra for Rhystic Study. He makes 2 1/1 Thopter tokens and then taps his commander, choosing to destroy Edgar. Sol lets me pick the other target and I use this opportunity to deal with Olivia, dealing a heavy blow to Martin's board. Sol then passes to me and Stephen draws a card thanks to Death Reap Ritual.
Alex plays an island and then activates Tezzeret's Zero ability, drawing 2 cards. Next he casts Sapphire Medallion, followed by Codex Shredder, and then Meekstone. Alex then passes the turn and Stephen responds by sacrificing Cryptbreaker to high mark it. He gains a life, immediately losing it to Immolation Shaman, and draws a card from his enchantment before moving to his turn.
Stephen plays a Swamp and then casts Primal Druid, paying for Rhystic Study. Next he casts From Beyond, and I draw a card thanks to my study. Stephen then ends his turn.
I play Rogue's Passage and then use Soren's -6 ability. I get a snazzy Soren emblem and then cast Swords to Plowshares, paying 1 extra. Alex responds by casting Stroke of Genius, where X is 4. He draws 4 cards, Ethereum Sculptor is exiled, and Alex gains 1 life. Not yet finished, I cast Captivating Vampire, paying for the Rhystic Study tax. I make a 1/1 vampire thanks to Edgar, and then move to combat, where I attack Tezzeret with 2 of my vampire tokens. Alex blocks 1 of the tokens with Urza, and Tezzeret takes 3 damage. I then pass to Sol.
Sol sacrifices a Thopter in his upkeep and then casts Fountain of Ichor. Next he sacrifices his remaining Thopter to Pia and Kieran's ability, dealing 2 damage to Tezzeret and reducing his loyalty to 0. Moving to combat, Sol attacks me with Pia and Kieran and his Yashino, and I block the Artificers with Urza. I take 1 damage and Sol moves to his end step, where Stephen draws from his ritual. Sol then passes the turn.
Alex sacrifices Urza in his upkeep, bringing joy to everyone else at the table. He then plays Reliquary Tower, recasts Urza, and makes another construct. Alex then equips his shoes to his commander, taking 1 damage from Immolation Shaman, and casts Spellbook. He then casts Ugin the Spirit Dragon, and activates Ugin's -X ability, where X is 3. All coloured permanents with CMC 3 or less are exiled, and Alex ends his turn.
Stephen makes a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion token in his upkeep thanks to From Beyond, and then casts his commander. Next he sacrifices his Scion to add 1 colourless mana to his mana pool, gaining an experience counter, and casts Fleshbag Marauder. Stephen sacrifices the Marauder to its own trigger, gaining another experience counter. Sol sacrifices Pia and Kieran, and I sacrifice my construct. Moving to his end step, Stephen draws a card from Death Reap Ritual, and returns Fleshbag Marauder to his hand. He then passes to Martin.
I play Terramorphic Expanse and immediately sacrifice it to put a mountain into play tapped. Next I cast Vona, Butcher of Magan, making a vampire token with Edgar, and then pass the turn.
Sol sacrifices Commander in his upkeep and then casts Hope of Girapor. He then casts Fervent Strike, targeting his Thopter, and moves to combat. Sol attacks me with his creature, and I respond by casting Rapid Hybridization. Hope of Girapor is destroyed, and Sol is compensated with a 3/3 Frog Lizard. Sol then ends his turn, and Stephen draws a card in his end step.
Alex activates Urza's ability in his upkeep, exiling Muddle the Mixture for later use. He then once again sacrifices Urza to my Soren emblem and uses Ugin's +2 ability, dealing 3 damage to Sol's Frog Lizard. Next Alex casts Preordain, scrying both his cards to the bottom of his library and drawing a card. He then passes to Stephen, who draws from his ritual before moving to his turn.
Stephen sacrifices Meren in his upkeep and then creates a 1/1 Scion. Next he plays a Gaia Reach Sanitarium and then casts Underrealm Lich before passing the turn. I respond to this by flashing in Torrential Gearhulk, recasting Rapid Hybridization from my graveyard. I destroy Martin's Vona, gifting him a 3/3 Frog Lizard instead, and Stephen draws a card from Death Reap Ritual, forgetting about his Lich's ability. Martin then moves to his turn.
I recast Edgar Markov and then play Rakdos Guildgate. I then end my turn.
Sol draws for his turn and then passes to me. I respond by sacrificing Mindstone to draw a card and then proceed to my turn.
Alex sacrifices his Gearhulk to my Soren emblem and then plays an island. Next he uses Ugin's +2 ability, dealing 3 damage to my Frog Lizard, and then casts Urza once again. He makes a construct token, sticks his boots on his commander, and then casts Spell Seeker. Alex puts Cyclonic Rift into his hand and then passes the turn. Stephen draws from his ritual, once again forgetting about his Lich, and then moves to his turn.
Stephen sacrifices Scion in his upkeep, and then immediately replaces it thanks to From Beyond. He then draws for turn, missing his Lich's trigger for a third time, and then casts Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Martin, Sol and I lose 4 life, Stephen gains 12, and Stephen then sacrifices his Scion to produce a mana. He uses this to help cast Cauldron of Souls and then moves to his end step. Stephen remembers his Underarm Lich trigger this time, looking at the top 3 cards of his library. He puts one of them into his hand, the other 2 into his grave, and ends his turn.
I move straight to combat, using Rogue's Passage to make Edgar unblockable. I attack Alex with my commander, and he responds by casting an overloaded Cyclonic Rift, returning everybody's permanents to their hands. In my second main phase, I cast Havengul Vampire and then pass to Sol.
Sol casts Ring of Volcus, and then recasts Fountain of Ichor. He then passes the turn.
Alex sacrifices Spellseeker to my Sorin emblem, and I put a +1/+1 counter on my vampire. Alex then casts Trophy Mage, searching his library for Basalt Monolith, and then casts Reshape. He sacrifices Darksteel Relic to put Rings of Bright Hearth into play from his library, and then casts the Basalt Monolith that he just tutored for. This allows him to produce infinite mana by copying the monolith's untapped trigger with his rings, and then tapping the monolith before the copied trigger resolves. This gains him 1 mana per cycle, allowing him to activate Urza's ability an infinite number of times, putting his entire library into exile. Alex then casts Laboratory Maniac and Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and uses Jace's +1 ability to draw a card. Sol responds to this by casting Galvanic Blast, targeting the Lab Maniac, but Alex stops it with a Pact of Negation, allowing him to win the game with Laboratory Maniac's ability. Well, that's it for another game. We hope that you enjoyed it. But that's not it for this video, we still have to announce the winners of our competition. Congratulations to the 2 subscribers whose comments are currently on screen, you have both won a complete set of our official Affinity for Commander tokens. Please contact us on Twitter @4commander so we can arrange sending these out to you. And as always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and feel free to follow us on Twitter or support us on Patreon. We'll see you next time.